I'm here to talk about Infinite Heart, which is the key to transformation. And I'm sponsored by the Institute for Global Transformation. I was raised a Christian Scientist with a Jewish father. I always felt that made me open-minded, although my ex-wife called me a little confused. Now, in Christian Science Sunday School, I learned about Adam and Eve, which I got. But I never understood who thus and thou and thee and hath were. I did get the 10 Commandments, and the one about thou shalt not murder kind of confused me, because not too long after that, I learned about how God drowned everybody in the flood except for Noah and his family. So that really confused me. After that, I thought God was a little bit mean. Not moving. There's God. Okay, so I kind of X'd God out a little bit. I thought he was mean. I didn't like him very much anymore. Then, when I was in 4th grade, I learned about astronomy. And I read everything I could get my hands on astronomy. And in astronomy, I learned that there's a theory of creation called the Big Bang Theory, which says that everything in the universe came from infinitely small, infinitely dense particle. So that made a lot more sense to me at first than the creation theory of Christian Science. Except with my questioning mind, I asked, where did that particle come from? And no matter what I read about astronomy and cosmology, the scientists did not have an answer for that. I don't like unanswered questions. So I figured, okay, God, that's better than no answer. So maybe there is a God, I just haven't defined him properly yet. So at a young age, I was an empiricist before I even knew what that meant. So I was asking, where did the first particle come from? Now, my father, bless his heart, he always told me that, Michael, there's nothing you can't achieve if you really put your heart into it. Now, that key word was heart, and I didn't really get that because I started putting my mind into everything. So I questioned things. I always question things. I questioned authority because obviously the grand authority I already questioned because there was a contradiction there in his own rules. He couldn't follow them himself. So I was asking, what's the purpose of life? Why was I born? Why is there crime? Why is there bullies? I couldn't understand bullies at school. I was always defending the underdog against the bullies. Disease, suffering, starvation. By the time I reached age 18, my goal in life, hey, as long as I can fix anything, as long as I can achieve anything according to my father, I may as well go for the big one. I wanted to fix the world. So there was a scene. Let me step back a little bit. There was a scene when I was 12 years old that also gave me the feeling that I have power to achieve whatever I want. I said, I don't want to go to Sunday school anymore. So I faced my mom in the kitchen on a Sunday morning, and I told her, Mom, you can't force me. I'm 12 years old. I'm not going anymore. So she looked at me and saw I was ready for a fight if she was going to say I had to. And she said, okay, Michael, you don't have to go anymore. Freedom. I was so happy. So during the last 40 years, I've studied quantum physics, philosophy, psychology. I got a certified hypnotherapist. I became a doctor in metaphysics. I studied all the things you can see on that list there. And after 27 years of those studies, I got to a point where I realized that I had developed my intellect to the point where I found fault with everything. Every one of those systems, there was something in them that I could find a contradiction that didn't make sense to my analytical mind, and I'd throw out the whole system and move on to the next one. Now, it was fun. I was learning a lot, and I'm not sad that I did that because it finally brought me to a conclusion you're going to see. One of the books I read towards the end of that 27 years was Neale Donald Walsch's book, Conversations with God. And in that book, he talks about something that blew me away. It's called the divine dichotomy. And the divine dichotomy basically goes like this. Two seemingly contradictory thoughts or concepts can both be correct or both be incorrect, or one can be right, the other can be wrong, or vice versa, depending on your perspective. Whoa, so something was wrong with my perspective. And then that brought me to a realization of some interesting things. I realized that your perception depends on your perspective, okay? They're different. And I looked at the word analyze and realize. And I noticed something funny that really cracked me up. When you analyze, you're anal. When you realize, you're real. I was being anal because I was analyzing too much. And you can only go so far with logic and analysis. You have to open your heart. And that's where I met Ilona. Ilona was a brilliant psychologist that I connected with, and we had fabulous conversations. Women are more connected with their heart in general, I think we'll notice as men. And she would always tell me at the end of a conversation, she'd say, Michael, you know, you're just not getting some things because you're analyzing too much. You're too much in your head. You have to open your heart. Because I would argue with her points until she just would say that. And I said, Ilona, okay, I want to open up my heart. If that's what I need to do, how do I do that? You know, I'm stuck. So I can give you a technique to do it, but I'm warning you, you might become more emotional. You might have more feelings. You might cry more often. I said, okay, give it to me. Maybe I'm fearless. Tell me what I need to do. So Ilona told me this. She said, Michael, when you're falling asleep tonight, you're going to be in alpha state just before you fall asleep. And what you want to do is this. Walk downstairs, open up a door, and imagine you find a forest path that leads deep into the forest. Walk into the forest path and just wait till somebody or something, either an animal or a person or an alien, I don't know what, but just be open to whatever might appear. I didn't believe anything was going to work. I was analytical still, and so I walked down the path, and it was a beautiful forest in my mind. Nothing came, and I said, okay, I didn't think it was going to work. I was a skeptic, and I was right, proving myself right? And I fell asleep. Next time I saw Ilona, I presented her with what happened. She says, no problem, don't worry about it. Do it again. This time, imagine that you are yourself as a little boy. I was like, okay, I'll try it again. It's not going to work, but I'll try it again. So, I'm almost about to fall asleep, walking down the stairs, open the door again, walking down the path, and I see somebody approaching me from the path down in the forest. We're getting closer and closer, and I see it's a woman. And then I recognize who the woman is. It's my mother, who committed suicide when I was 16 years old, living in Israel, and I hadn't seen her for 2 years. I never really mourned her death. I was detached from that moment on. So my mother approaches, and I approach her. We give each other a big hug. I melt into her arms, and she was my mommy. And I get teared up a little bit when I tell this. And my adult self that was in bed cried like I never cried before in my life. I finally mourned her death. And my pillow was soaked. Half an hour at least I cried. Couldn't stop, hardly. And after that, I reported it to Ilona. She said, congratulations, Michael, you opened up your heart chakra. And there's supposed to be a beautiful picture of there we go, there's my heart chakra opening up. And from that moment on, I started to have some really amazing insights. I came upon a book called Love Without End by Gilda Green. She's channeling Jesus' teachings for our times, similar to the Course in Miracles. And it talked a lot about what it called in the book the Sacred Heart. Now, the Sacred Heart is this infinity star that is the essence of who and what we really are. It's infinitely powerful. And what I'd like you to take from this, if nothing else, all this other details is details, it's great, but take this away today. From now on, when you look at other people, remember perception, perspective, Okay, when you look at other people, you're immediately going to judge them as a man, a woman, young, old, tall, pretty, ugly, all these things that we immediately judge from our persona. But what I want you to attempt to do is pierce through that judgment, through that illusion of the persona, and perceive this pure, here it is. That's what the infinity star is. It's pure, infinite, unconditional love energy. Right? That's our essence. That's who and what we really are. And we can make ourselves in this physical form anything we want. Now, that infinity star is actually covered by shadows, shadow energies. And here are some of the shadow energies. Fear, ego, greed, jealousy, gluttony. There's shadow energies that are surrounding that essence of who we are. Now, there's ways to pierce those shadow energies, and that's using your infinite heart. When you connect with your infinite heart, you become empowered to the point where you can, if you see fear, you start feeling fear approaching you, you can take a strong stance, face it, and smash through it. Like Shotokan karate, or, and now that's the male system, or you can use the feminine system, which is Aikido. Aikido is quite different, but it works the same way. You see the fear, you feel the fear, the greed, the jealousy coming at you. Just stand there nice and calm, feminine energy, right? No attack. And you just, as it comes towards you, you step aside, trip it, pull it, and let it go on its way. Doesn't even touch you. That's infinite heart energy. So there's an illusion that we are all separate. This is the key. This is the energy that gives power to fear, ego, greed, and jealousy. And it's an illusion. And we're fighting that illusion all the time. These are the shadow energies of our lives. So the illusion that we're all separate. The infinite heart is the power that allows us to overcome that illusion. Infinite heart is a perception key that allows us to do that. Now, understand, it's important that we also perceive the illusion of separation, because that's what allows us to distinguish ourselves from others in this dimension. So that's important. Infinite heart perception allows us to perceive both the separation and the oneness at the same time. What you're going to learn when you connect with your infinite heart is, remember that divine dichotomy? You're going to have answers to questions where it's neither yes or no anymore. Okay? It's both. Depending on what? Your perspective. Perspective gives you the perception. Okay? You're playing the role as a woman in this lifetime. You have masculine energy in you. Are you a man or a woman? I'm both, but I'm pretending to be a woman this time in the game stage of life. Are you a man or a woman? Somebody's playing the role as a man. You can ask a lot of questions like that. Okay, next we have quantum physics. Quantum physics is an amazing science for analytical people who want proof that we're all one. Study quantum physics. Quantum entanglement is a concept that I don't have time to get into, but it's amazing. Come on my talk sometimes and I'll tell you all about that. Einstein proved that we're all one. And here it is. This is the most famous equation in history. If you really look at it, there's a fabulous book, E equals MC squares, that analyzes all aspects of that. But anyway, energy equals mass. Mass equals energy. Equations are reversible. It's all energy. Everything's different forms of energy. Now we're going to do a little spiritual alchemy. Okay, we're going to play a game where we've got these concepts that I've thrown at you: perception, energy, oneness, practical, metaphysics, quantum. Okay, the jumbling around in our heads. So let's do some spiritual alchemy. There's the spiritual alchemical pot. We're going to put all those concepts and names and words and letters into it and cook it and render it and see what comes out. Check it out. PQM. Very simple, 3 letters. Practical, quantum, metaphysics. And we've got 3 axioms. Practical axiom is all is perception. We can use that every day in our lives. The quantum axiom is all is energy. And the metaphysical axiom, all is one. Okay, you study any deep metaphysical studies and you'll learn all this. Now, it's easy to memorize all 3 of these by a mnemonic, which is just Poe, P-O-E, like Edgar Allan Poe. And that comes out to Poe, perception of one, it's a sentence, perception of one energy. So simple. Just remember, perception of one energy. Now, all this is fine and dandy, but there's still something very important missing. And what is that? We're trying to spread, raising our consciousness throughout the planet right now in these days, getting up to 2012, December 21st, something like that. So the question I asked myself is, why isn't it spreading faster? What could be done to spread it faster? What could be done that would spread oneness consciousness? So here's my conclusion. Based on, we need a visual perception tool. What would a oneness symbol look like? So here's a quote from Joel Premack, who wrote the book, A View from the Center of the Universe. Symbols are the way to grasp the universe. They free us from the limitations of our 5 senses, which evolved to work in our earthly environment. Symbols are far easier to remember than the long logical argument or a mathematical equation. So you don't have to remember or study practical quantum metaphysics unless you want to come and it's interesting you. All you have to do is connect with a symbol. But what would that symbol be? We've got symbols all over the place in our lives. There's symbols for Christianity. There's a symbol for Judaism. This is, by the way, a sacred symbol that's much more than just a symbol for Judaism. I took a class for 4 hours just on that symbol alone. There's the symbol for Islam. We have logos for companies. Obviously, probably the most famous one is the Apple symbol. But we don't have a symbol for oneness. How could that be? There's symbols, they're mathematical symbols. Now here's a really interesting symbol. What does that represent? Love, huh? What kind of love? Unconditional love or human love? Exactly. That represents human love. Now, I saw that and I looked at it and I said, okay, what does the real heart look like? How did they get from that to that? And what's that point all about? And then I realized the pun. Human love, there's always a point. I'll love you if you're this or that. If you're not this or that, there's always a point to it. Get the point? So, but it's a very interesting symbol, but it needs to be changed. And then there's this symbol. How many of you, raise your hands if you're familiar with this? You ever seen it before? Okay, just a few of you. This is this. Can you keep that one up, please, for a minute? Thank you. This one is, it has many names because it's so amazing. It's called the Fibonacci curve, the golden mean, the God curve, the God ratio. It's got all kinds of memes. There's a whole book just on that symbol. And I looked at that symbol, and I saw something interesting. It looks like almost half a heart, right? There's something sacred going on here. I put another one next to it. And imagine putting those close together. You have a heart without a point. That's the symbol for unconditional love. We now have a symbol for unconditional love. Then there's a symbol. Anybody read Dan Brown's book, The Da Vinci Code? He talks about the circumpunct in that book. How many of you caught that? It's a circle with a point in the center. That's a symbol for God, or the deity, or the whole universe, or whatever name you want to give it. Those are just labels and symbols too. So take the circle with a point in the middle, and take those two hearts and combine them. You get something a little complicated that looks like that. You see, you've got two of the hearts, as above, so below, facing down. They create this kind of infinity sign. But there's another symbol that we missed out on that's very important. That's the yin-yang. Remember when I did the karate thing? The yin energy, the yang energy, you combine. But that represents duality. We want to raise our consciousness above duality consciousness to oneness consciousness. But at the same time, remember both? So that's going to be in the symbol too. So here we have the yin-yang, which is, by the way, it's called the Daijitsu is the name of that. We call it yin-yang. The circumpunct, the Fibonacci curve, and the infinity sign, all amazing symbols. Now let's do some sacred alchemy, spiritual alchemy again. Let's put all those into that spiritual alchemical pot and see what it renders. See what kind of symbol the universe is telling us to use for the oneness symbol. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you the universally accepted, hopefully, eventually, oneness symbol. There it is. Okay? And if you focus on that, and you really get the energy of it, it's inside all of us, then all the rest is just words and labels, and it's just, that's what you can focus on, and eventually you'll get it. Now, what this will lead us to, when we all connect, more people in the world, there's the 100th monkey syndrome that you could look up if you haven't heard about it. It's going to lead us to this. One is our next evolution. Thank you very much. And now I've got a little treat for you. I'm going to show you the three-dimensional version of the oneness symbol, because that two-dimensional version is just that. But it's really a representative. It's a symbol of three-dimensional energy. And we'll wait for them to show that. And once you imagine that's a sphere, and those Fibonacci curves are from the center of the sphere coming out to the circumference of it, and then you rotate the sphere, look at what you get. Now that's left to right. Again, it's all about perception. That's quite hypnotic. I've heard people tell me that after seeing this, they've suddenly come into some insights. Now they're rotating it top to bottom, see? Look at the energy in there. There's in quantum physics, they talk about, is it a particle or a wave? And they find that's also proof that it's both. Okay, keep going. You're going to come to a point where it'll pause. Okay, there. Now he's going to bring it back. Okay, stop it right there. That is a vesica Pisces or Pisces. It's the connection of two circles like this. Okay, and you'll see it. It's the beginning of everything. It's when one cell separates into two, and it's got those two circles you saw in there. It's another infinity sign. Okay, that's it. I'm done.